This is going to hopefully be a long video with a lot of information. I honestly don't know where to begin other than to say that I have had to start over. Of course, you know that this channel is all about search and rescue missions with a helicopter, search and rescue hoist missions. However, once I got my company off the ground, things were going relatively well up front. We started earning a little bit money. We opened up some more specializations. We had 10 of them unlocked in 5 days. We weren't doing that bad. We were running a career. We had premium insurance, and I think that was our biggest problem, and I'm hoping that this is a bug Microsoft and the team are soon to fix, because this screen became useless. I was getting dinged with over 150,000 credits every single day, even when I wasn't in the simulator, not just flying missions while as an employee, but not even in sim. And that brought me to a condition of dead broke, nearly $1 million in the hole. So I made the decision to just simply restart my career. Now, I did this with some bated breath, and I wasn't really sure if this was going to be the right move or not, but so far, along with other things that I've done, this seems to have been a very solid decision. So far, I am doing this live for the very first time after just a couple of tests. And of course, getting my private pilot's license and commercial pilot's license back since I had to restart. Now, in that process, it really wasn't that bad. It's only been 18 days since launch. I think it was a pretty decent amount of time. Okay? 18 days. We were able to go through and find a really good weak spot within the career system. And we've discovered a lot of things, and hopefully we're moving forward with this. So, of course, we're going to be forced to use fixed wing. So in order to use fixed wing, I figured we just restart this bad boy and keep on going closer to the spot where we wanted to actually fly, which was the Reunion Island. And Reunion Island is right about here in the middle of the Indian Ocean, sort of on the western side by Madagascar. That's where I wanted to fly, so I decided to make this location right here my home base. Odd choice, I know. FMAD, Foxtrot Mike Alpha David, how do you want to call it? Darn it, we had to start over. I digress. So, in doing so, I've made the decision to stick with the fixed wing version of the career mode for now. And while I fly this couple of missions here and just look around for one, let's see if we can tell you a little bit about how I've gotten to this point. Up to now, I've been experiencing a lot of crashes to desktops, and I do mean a lot of them. It's been happening very frequently. Oddly enough, today was another stream from the Microsoft dev team, and some information was revealed there that I thought was extremely interesting when it comes to the career modes. It's one of the things that I'm paying a little bit more attention to than anything else as far as like the flight planning and things along those lines. However, I think it's important to know because a lot of people are doing careers, and this is a fix that so far has been doing wonders, and it's just been a couple of missions that I've noticed the difference in. So within that, they actually said that there was quite an issue with corrupt local data that you received when you initially downloaded the simulator for the very first time. And one thing that I had recognized while I was loading in the simulator is the very beginning of it starts with their trailer video, and there were portions of that trailer video that were actually glitching. Since I've done this process, that has at least so far gone away. It's taken a lot of steps to get here, but what he recommended at that point was a uninstall and reinstall of the simulator. This is a lot of steps to go through. However, I believe they are important steps to take to getting a smoother running simulator and career mode. They also said that the career mode patches do not have to be scheduled as frequently, which is great news, right? They can push those patches out much more frequently without having any notification or need to accept a download or whatever it may be. I'm already running into, see, and as I say this, I'm biting my own tongue because I'm already running into issues where I cannot do this. However, this is another point you all need to be aware of. After doing this, I've had to come back in every single time. Once again, the same bugs are still there that were before, but I've come around to decide how to more accurately map my HOTAS and key bindings so it is easily managed. It does take a little bit of time. It's quite a tedious process, but I believe at the end of the day, this is going to be worth it. Since this is the first time in my new career that I have been in this specific aircraft, you'll see that my controls are defaulting. So what I have done, and I will continue to do, is I have these fixed wing presets. I also have a C-172 cargo preset. So what I'm going to do is actually start to duplicate some of these. And I'm going to name these by the aircraft that I am currently in for that specific flight, whether you're in a mission or free flight. This should automatically revert back to a key binding that is specific to that aircraft, as long as you manage the keyboard, the throttle, as any other peripheral within your control system. Has to be done independently, at least for now, while Microsoft continues to work things through. Because you can see, even though that I switched these over, it doesn't retain that information based on each individual portion of your controller set. Each one of these has to be done independently. Now I'll move over to my cyclic controls, and these will also have been reverted back to something that Microsoft does by default for whatever reason. This system, some people have said it, it's fine, it works. I disagree. I kind of like the fact that you can go and do controls, by aircraft. Everyone has their own aircraft settings, the way they like it, and that's going to vary from one aircraft to another. I get it. So it has its pluses and it has its minuses. But I want to go back in here and make sure that I rename this now. So for me to do this, I'm going to duplicate this control set, and I'm going to actually come in and rename this as something like the Cadet. I can just copy that information over. A little bit easier to run through. Just do the copy paste as you kind of do, all of these control configurations. I'm going to try to save as much time as possible. So now we're going to go back in and do the same thing with the airplane controls for this. We're going to duplicate, come in. I have to use the backspace key to get the information out, paste the Cadet in, and just hit OK. I'm waiting for the spinning wheel of misfortune to load between every one of these instances intentionally. I want to give the time to the servers and the CDNs and all that good nonsense behind the scenes time to make sure that this information is being shared. Now notice that I'm even coming down here, even though there's probably not specific controls on a Cadet, I want to make sure that each one of my control services is being assigned a specific name. So I'm going through that with all of these. And again, I did say that this was tedious, and I was not kidding. But I believe that this is a process that absolutely needs to be done. So I did take their advice and I completely uninstalled. However, I uninstalled after I had already started my new path and new career. Luckily, they retained the information on the backside, so I didn't lose any of my progress. My pilot's license was still there. I had the CPL. The bank account was still at the according, everything was right. The little $8,020 or credits that you see in the upper right-hand corner, that was earned prior to uninstalling the simulator. So don't worry that your information will be erased completely if you choose this same path. All of my information was retained when I finally downloaded a brand new version of the simulator. In the process of downloading the new simulator, what I also did was chose to separate a few things on my drive that weren't separated before. And if you know how computers work, you'll kind of understand why I chose to do this in such a dramatic way. I did not choose to load the simulator onto my C drive. I actually chose to load it on a different drive that is an NVMe M.2 drive. Now, caveat, my C drive is also an identical NVMe drive. However, I have other things going on in the background, such as the streaming software, that were also running from my C drive. So it only makes sense to me to separate those and make sure that the read-write capabilities of those individual drives is optimized while I am doing a stream and flying. So, fingers and toes crossed, I'm hoping that that is actually just a simple part of my issue. If you're experiencing issues with crashes to desktop, it may also behoove you to consider how much overhead you have on a specific drive where your simulator is on your equipment. If there's not enough overhead and you're trying to cache, eventually your computer is going to reach a limit. You want to avoid that limit and you want to make sure that you have overhead. They also mentioned quite a bit of information about VRAM, if you didn't know. VRAM is very important to processing all of these graphics. Ta-da! Controlling the settings within your graphics and general options is something that you can do on your own, to your own specs and liking, which I haven't really honestly dove into much more, and I've left the settings as they were prior to my last crash and the end of my first career. Am I seriously okay, this is done. I'm losing my train of thought. So, making sure that all of your ducks are in a row as far as hardware placement in your folder system becomes what I believe is going to be beneficial to how the simulator runs. At least for me, since I'm streaming at the same time as I'm trying to fly a simulator that is constantly processing information. Now, if you haven't seen this before, I do have some computer specs that aren't necessarily something to sneeze at, but something that definitely needs to be considered. So what we've got here is a Ryzen Threadripper 2950X. It has 11 gigabytes of VRAM. I'm also using 128 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM in the computer. And there are multiple NVMe drives, so I'm trying to optimize this system's performance on a lot of different levels. I think that it's going to become almost mandatory for us to make sure that all of this is being stored on extremely fast equipment, which is going to do something to a market. It's going to kind of force individuals into purchasing better equipment. It's kind of a economic boost at the same time. And this is already something, see, if all of this stuff is being changed as I move around. Even though I've just re-keybound that, you kind of saw that the tail rudder of this aircraft was giving a little bit of a stutter as I opened up on the airport. So even though I've changed all of those settings and duplicated them from something that existed prior, you'll also have to come back into this. And if you've changed any of your settings as far as your curves go, or your sensitivities on your controllers, you may want to consider going back in to each one of these control surfaces and finding out if the sensitivities that you had set prior still exist. So I like to make sure that my pedals have that little bit of a dead zone in between. So just in case there's a flutter in the electronics of your controllers, the simulator isn't reacting to those, so a dead zone in the middle of that is truly going to stay a static zero input while you're sort of just resting your feet there or don't even have your feet on the rudders at all. By doing so, it seems to have fixed that issue a little bit. So a lot of glitches still exist in this simulator. No question about it. However, every time I'm using the quick reply button now, it is reacting properly. As I get into these different aircrafts for the different missions, things tend to get a little wonky, only because each aircraft is responding differently. So even though everything went fine in the last mission, things are still to the point where all aircraft in base sim free flights or within careers aren't perfect yet. They're still working those kinks out. Unfortunate, but it's a matter of fact. So we're just going to go on and live with it. I figured I would try a few different things in my career instead of just going specifically immediately towards the search and rescue hoist that I want to be doing in the simulator. I think I'm going to just earn as much money as an employee for now as I possibly can, doing missions that have few of these bugs in them. Because why would I want to spend the time doing these missions where the aircraft themselves aren't truly functioning properly? So with that train of thought, I sort of just went through and noticed that the airline cargo missions that you get, and you can do in like the 172 cargo version, actually utilize a very stable aircraft. The flight was pretty enjoyable. I was able to use the autopilot to earn the money. So even though it was a 45-minute flight and I didn't skip anything, I was actually just able to engage the autopilot, step away from my computer, cook and eat something to and came back 45 minutes later, and I was coming into the airport, landing it, yawn, money's good. Sure, it's not as hands-on as it was, but honestly, it's a lot less frustrating when you don't have to sit there and watch the simulator fail. While they work out these bugs, I'm going to continuously try different avenues to make this as ergonomic as possible for career mode. And then once we get to the point where it is stable, I'm going to be extremely excited about it. I already am. I have visions of grandeur when it comes to the capabilities of this simulator. Now, was it smooth coming up to this point? Absolutely not. The very first time I got back into my new career mode, before I did the uninstall and reinstall, I was getting more crashes to the desktop by just simply walking up to the airplane to go for my commercial pilot's license. Came back, The money was still withdrawn from the account, and I was able to take the test and successfully move on. But again, it was just another hiccup. I haven't experienced a crash to desktop since I have made these changes, and I honestly believe that a fresh install of the software is going to be the fix that I'm looking for. So if you are experiencing crash to desktops still, I believe it is a good idea to go through the tedious task of uninstalling and reinstalling your simulator, knowing that all of the information that you want retained, even your character's look, all of that is retained. And you're going to come back to a much different and smoother experience overall. Yes, the smaller stuff will still exist, but it's a step in the right direction. One thing that rubbed me quite wrong with the Microsoft video today at their, oh my goodness. So either way, you know what I'm talking about, right? When they have their dev stream. If you caught it, he said that they're very sorry for the way the launch went and how horribly things have gone, and he did a lot of explaining. And I truly believe that he is sorry, because it was a horrible publicity event. So he's feeling apologetic, rightfully so, and he has offered the community the next 4 airplanes that are launched for the simulator will be given to simmers who have downloaded up to this point, 4 of them for free. Well, guess who's not a fixed wing pilot that isn't going to benefit from those aircraft, probably very much, even if at all? A lot of simmers. So here's another thing that really rubs me the wrong way. We heard from Marcial from Asobo in regards to the trim of the H125 from Airbus. And he said that he was basically surprised to hear that there was a bug related to the trim of that aircraft. Because according to him, and I don't know if this is true or not, I would really like to hear from some real world pilots about this who have had experience in the H125. Apparently it doesn't even have the capability to be trimmed as a full-scale airframe. I have questions about that. I'm not sure. I've never seen the inside of one. I don't have that information intimately, but here's the problem. You have talked to search and rescue teams in the Coast Guard, and you know the equipment that they used, yet you chose to give us an aircraft that is incapable of actually completing those missions to their guidelines and methods of operation. While at the same time, the HPG, Hype Performance Group's Airbus H145, which was a working search and rescue hoist platform in 2020 that I purchased, isn't available in a Coast Guard configuration. It's, I believe, civilian or military. So I've actually had a model removed from my quote-unquote marketplace. Yes, it was a third party. It wasn't available in the marketplace. However, that is an aircraft and an airframe and a livery that I have paid money for. Yet that aircraft isn't available to me and wasn't considered as a base aircraft to do search and rescue or search and rescue hoist missions. That is incredibly disappointing, and a decision that was made woefully. That is extremely disappointing. Why? You're asking a helicopter pilot to hover on a mountainside in updraft, and you're not going to even give them an aircraft that has trim? That seems like unsafe conditions. Now, in the real world, are H-125s performing those missions? Not that I have seen personally. I usually see something like an H-160 or the H-145 or some other platforms, but a 125, I don't think I've seen doing very many hoisting mountain rescues. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's extremely disappointing. However, we're quite a ways into this stream right now, and we're holding steady. We've seen a little bit of a glitch with the weather. If you've noticed, the tail all of a sudden just kind of jumps around all by itself. That's literally just the weather itself kind of overreacting, or some kind of whatever. I don't care. I'm still flying right now, and I'm in the process of earning money while hopefully helping you guys fix some things in your process. I really do believe that one of the greatest things about the advice that I'm giving today is the fact that once you separate this information, and I don't know how this would work on an Xbox, I'm sure this is all just up to Microsoft, Asobo, and the team as far as that platform goes, but when we separate these to different, faster drives and maintain our cache in a more quote-unquote responsible manner, we're going to have a much better experience with this. They've also mentioned some issues that they might have had with the 40 series of NVIDIA cards, and that causing issues as well. I'm not sure on the details of that because I have an older generation NVIDIA card, 2080 Ti, and I've pushed my graphics down pretty considerably to be able to stream and fly at the same time, and I'm very tempted and curious to see how these tests are going to go over the next few days, weeks, months. And I push these settings a little bit further and further, and I consider adding a SLI bridge between a second 2080 Ti or just a new card altogether. I want to wait for more information to become available before I make any of those moves, though. And I'm just going to continue to find a nice balance, earn a lot of money while they work out the kinks, and just enjoy the world that they've created for us to fly in, because I think that is their greatest achievement with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is the fidelity on the planet, the inclusion of all of the animals and weather updates, the new tessellation, and all of the interaction between the sun and the clouds. The atmospherics are greatly improved. That's the stuff that I'm going to enjoy in the process. And I will continue to take note of the bugs and do my part in getting those ironed out. We will see how this goes. I have said in the past that I was out, but I did say that I was out of that current path. And so far, I'm pretty grateful that I made that decision. And I'm not regretting the purchase of 2024 at all. I don't think I did it early. I think I did it right in time to start optimizing this as quickly as possible, as soon as possible, because I wanted a better simulator experience, knowing that it was going to be launched the 19th of last month was something that I have looked forward to for, ever since the announcement was made. I wanted in, and I'm in, and that's where I'm going with this. It's going to take me a little while to get to my goal, but nothing in life that is truly worth it is easy, right? I don't know if I'm the only one to stand by that or not, but that's the stance I'm going to take. And yeah, these are going to be some really long missions. They're going to be really boring. But at the same time, once I get things dialed in and I start choosing the right missions, see, here we go, not touching anything. I don't have flaps down. The configuration of these flaps isn't all the way up, and those are the bugs that I'm talking about. But at the same time, my progress is still headed in the right direction. That is not going to be the end of this mission. It isn't going to impact the amount of insurance that I have to pay. And instead, I'll just continue to feel like I'm being punked and I'm just going to wait for the show to be over and enjoy the show in the process, because watching a flight mech on an H-125 stand up and peek his head through the top of the fuselage while in flight over the mountains is purely entertaining. Watching an H-160 on the tarmac nose into the back end of a fuel truck is pretty entertaining. There are some things about it that are obviously things that are being worked on, but at the same time, while those improvements are being made, the little failures like that are quite entertaining, and I'm okay with it. At the end of the day, it may sound sometimes like I'm really getting down on it because it is very depressing how this launched, but at the same time, I'm still excited to see how things go. I hope I'm not alone with that. I really do think that ending the initial career was the right choice. And I don't think it's going to take me very long to get back into the helicopter and get missions started. Another reason why I chose that location for my new base of operations is topography, weather conditions, and the things that might be generated in that area and how much more possible those missions may become. However, the areas of density that Microsoft is populating haven't really changed. But when we opened the video, we saw that some of those missions were happening much closer and in a different part of the world than we experienced the first time. So I think that part of the experience may be either better or worse depending on your location and the fidelity of those locations. Maybe if you're in a more urban city area, or if you're in a downtown area flying missions and all of that data is coming in and your system's not optimized and you're not pushing those good settings, you're going to run into even more issues with the simulator, especially if you're running on corrupt data that Microsoft gave you when you initially downloaded the software. I'm not mad. I'm not. I'm just a little further away from my goal than I thought I was the first day I downloaded it. That's okay. That's okay. We're just going to go for a ride. Now, one thing I've heard is that these longer flights used to end in a crash to desktop. I'm sincerely hoping that that is not the case here. However, if it does happen, I'm not going to blame it on a conflict between my streaming software and the simulator. I would actually just attribute it to a bug in the career mode that they are currently working on, which is also something that they discussed. You know, they'll be able to push out those career mode fixes and patches more frequently than they would something like a world update. So as soon as they find those solutions, they can go ahead and schedule those patches and get those to us quickly. And I think a lot of those have already been delivered. Maybe not a lot, but they did discuss how they are considering making it something that we could actually review for every time they put out a patch for a career mode. What did they fix with this patch? So we can track it and give them some feedback about that and see if their patch is actually functioning the way it's intended. As frustrating as this has been, I honestly believe that we are headed in the right direction. No question about it. But man, oh man, I gotta tell you what, man, I still feel it. I still feel that. I feel it. And now that I'm being given the opportunity here to skip to the descent, you better believe it. I am not here to spend that much time. I don't know how long it's been sitting up there. I just now noticed it. But I am going to take advantage of that opportunity and just come in and make this mission a little bit quicker. Because at the end of the day, I'm still going to get paid for it. It may not be the most money that I could make off of this mission, but it is going to be enough to get me in the right direction quicker. And I'm going to continue to try to find the type of mission that makes the most money with the least amount of hiccups. And so far, I believe that's actually the cargo missions. So far. We shall see. So far, this wasn't going horribly. And I'm okay with it. For now. I really do appreciate everyone's feedback. Conversation has been absolutely fantastic in these comments sections and in the live chats, getting to share some ideas with you guys and all of your feedback. It's really kind of fantastic to see this community, you know, almost coming around a product and sharing some similar views and hopefully all working towards the same end goal, which is a fantastic simulator that we can all enjoy. Thanks for sharing. And as I'm saying all of this, we're getting our max speed with flaps down. Again, my flaps aren't down, my flaps are up. Yada yada blah 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 blah. And it's not like flying airplanes is all that bad. I mean, think about it. When we were in the 80s, that's what we were doing. It's kind of like going back to your roots, where it all started. I'll call it nostalgic, and hopefully I'll get away with it. And again, that quick reply button is working every single time now. I think I'm going to overshoot the absolute daylights out of this runway, so I'm going to try to slip this thing in here. We will see how this works out. It also appears that my airspeed indicator is not functioning, so I truly don't know how fast I'm coming down. It just feels like I'm going very fast. I'm sure that car right there had... Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I don't care if it's another infraction. I'm just going to try not to crash this thing and stop it in time. This was an absolutely horrible landing. Not too bad. Not too bad. I'll take it, right? Mission accomplished. Next chance I get to skip anything, I'm taking it. Let's put those flaps back into an up configuration. And try to figure out where the hold short is. A quarter mile behind us. I did notice that on one of these aircrafts, it was a version of the 172 where the tail rudder authority completely went away, and I kind of had to pump the brakes while adding throttle and feathering the brakes to get it to turn at all. This one appears to be doing something similar on the way down to the hold short, but not as aggressively as the 172 did. It's also pulling to the left quite considerably. But here we are with the graphics turned down, things looking a little bit 2020, but having the diversity in the biomes is still present. We're learning things, flying around the world, seeing new places. Look at this, we got some more animals going across over here. I don't know what they are. They look like either reindeer, water buffalo. I don't know what those are. Can we see them? They got antlers, that's for sure. Those look like a water buffalo. I can only see the back side of them because when they get scared and react to it, they tend to turn tail. Pretty cool that all that is still there. You know, it really does kind of help with the immersion of it. Whether or not we're going to find that kind of animal running around this airport is a different story, but sure. And really not shy of getting close to those buildings. They just keep running further and further away from me. I'm also taking a lot more time to be patient at these hold shorts. I'm waiting till all of the communications between the traffic tower and myself are finished. So what I'm going to do is actually turn the simulator back up. Well, forget it. Forget about it. You know what I mean. Let the simulator run through its paces. Let it take its time. Try not to rush it. Alright, rudder authority on this aircraft is working much better than the 172 was. And we're going to go ahead and consider this just another payday. Along a new path, a brand new set of simulator rules with a brand new install of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Literally starting from scratch. Let the journey begin. I have no idea how to turn off this aircraft. I've just started flying. Holy crap. Holy crap. What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? I turned the battery off. Can I turn this thing off? Turn it off. Turn it off. Make it stop. I hate this airplane. I'm just saying. That was entertaining, right? If one thing's for sure, that was entertaining. That was entertaining. Well, maybe I should look around and maybe figure out how to turn this thing off for real. I have no idea. It says taxi to parking stand. Now I'm kind of screwed. All right, I think I'm stuck in front of the rocks too. We're gonna have to control E this. And you know one thing about it too is, yeah, there's no way to skip forward through this. So really glad I didn't get too close to those rocks. I'm in a little bit of a predicament though. What I was talking about earlier with that rudder, you can see I'm moving the, oh, see, it's intermittent. All right, let's just have a little more fun with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Why don't we? And I'm really enjoying this. nearly impossible to taxi anywhere. I don't know what I've done. Did I do something here? Yeah, I think I did. I think I've screwed up epically. This is what you get for using aircraft that you're not familiar with. Gotta love every minute of it. Can we move? I do enjoy the topography here, the way the aircraft is actually running over the rocks. Again, with the lower graphic settings, even though these are a little bit triangulated, the improvement from 2020 is still, this is at 2024 is still winning in my opinion. Another bug that I'd like to see fixed is with these parking stand boxes, if you do have these assists on, which I like to use, it helps identify it without getting too serious about airports and graphs and maps and all that good stuff. Those sometimes jump off the ground, and especially awkward when you're in a helicopter to see those boxes just randomly moving up and down. Now we can turn off the yeah. Let's just use the key. What do you say? That might be the key. And here we go. So just like that, we're going to fly a little bit of a mission, teach some people some things, or at least hopefully. I'm going to come out of this with an A. I respected the aircraft all the way up to 97%. Who cares if I'm down to 55? I still get the A decent amount of points. We're moving on. One step closer. He's scratching his head back there, and wouldn't you know it, missions like that take that long, only 590 credits. That's not my Jimmy Jam. That's not where I want to be going. I want to be earning more money than that, which is why I said to explore these different mission sets. Each one is going to have its own level of profitability. Every time this loads up, I will let these missions generate before interacting with the screen again, just letting it breathe. And what I was saying earlier about those hotspots on the planet, those still exist. Wouldn't you know it? They're all still relatively in the exact same locations. So no matter where your base of operations is, the missions that they are generating around the planet stay relatively static. Not available. Oh, I'm still not able to fly to 125. The untrimmable aircraft that was provided knowingly that a trim wasn't available. I digress. So there's only one cargo mission, maybe two. I can't see what's tucked in. All right, so here we go. One cargo mission, but let's make the comparison. This one is going to earn 3,500 credits, 45 minutes. That's a reasonable option, considering that I don't mind using the skip function in these. So if I just continue to repeat this mission, I'm going to be in a relatively safe condition to earn a lot of money quickly, instead of having to get into the missions where our survivors are in the woods. Because according to that map, those missions are probably going to continue to appear in the same locations that we've seen in the past. So another great piece of advice is to just be very careful about where you put your base of operations for your airline on the planet. Consider the terrain, consider what you want to do with it, consider the glitches that we've seen so far, or at least until they fix things. But just other than that, we kind of have to be a little bit picky. Not what we hoped for, but it is what it is, and that's all that it is. I'm flying it, because that's what we need to do for now, is just make money and take these steps down this path and continue to work in the right direction. The one thing I haven't done right now is actually even check the chat. I'm so sorry about that. I hope I'm not out here neglecting anybody. There you go. Roscud, hello. I'm so sorry if I ignored you. Feel sorry for this grind, phases and bugs and insurances and flaps penalties in the career. Looks like they do. Look, it's working with Cessna C-172 ready to release. Sky is calling. Yeah, I know those are all valid points. Valid. Hopefully you didn't drop off the stream just yet. I did not have that open. A little too involved in the information I'm trying to get out there right now. My apologies for that, my friend. And I don't think it's going to take long for us to get out of the fixed wing and back into the helis. I really don't. But I'm going to spend quite a bit of time, unfortunately, in these fixed wing aircraft doing these missions that I'm not exactly here to do. But that's what's going to happen. I appreciate it. Good to see you're still here, my man. Thank you. Are you currently in sim, going through your career, same kind of hiccups and problems? Or are you just kind of taking a peek inside to maybe have a little bit of knowledge before you dive into this nightmare? Grinding the cargo missions too. Yep. Hopefully you didn't have the insurance problems that I had. Hopefully your experience has been better than mine, but after 3 days, mine took a hit 3 different times, 170 a piece, and I was dead broke, almost $1 million in the hole after that bug reared its ugly head. And I just started all over. Again, I just like to take my time with these little menu systems. Let that communication go through, let the process happen. I tried the skydive mission, which is where I got the thumbnail for the video. And getting up to that altitude that they want you to jump out at, or at least allowed to jump at, always takes me a little bit too long for some reason. I wasn't getting good scores on that. I thought it would be good, at least cinematically, to do the whole skydiving thing, but it just wasn't working as smoothly as I want it to work. And I'm still getting this glitchiness on the tail rudder with these aircraft, but once it gets up in the air, it seems to do quite a bit better. Cargo missions seem like they're the only way to go at this point. It's not horrible. And we're going to Alt-N, skip through. La-T don't care. So frustrating, the way it kicks around on the runway. It's just the comedy of it all. I love it. Yeah, I'm a little bit familiar with those indents with the Y, the G, the X, and the R for those different ratings. Can I always meet them? No, not really. The only one I can usually hit at any regularity would be the rotation for takeoff. And it wants me to take off from 11, so I'm just speeding up down the runway here to get to the other side quicker. I'm honestly not too worried about the accuracy. I'm worried about the coin, and then we'll worry about the accuracy once we get into the search and rescue hoist missions. And here we go. The rudder pedals are kind of locked up, and I'm having to sort of use a overspeed and a combination with the brakes to get that to work. There we go. Time to earn some money. Can't wait for another skip. Coming on that rotation. There we go. And we're up. Skippity doo dah. Where is it? One thing I also like to do with this is, since it works in this aircraft, I just set that 4,700 altitude that they want. They want it 57 now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But before I initiate it, I'm going to go ahead and put a heading bug on there. And I'm going to click the autopilot and the heading. We'll let that bad boy slide its way over there. Do a little altitude just for now. And then we're going to just do a flight level change. Sloppy. Fat bottom girl. Hopefully the cargo in the back isn't all that jacked up. Let's swing that around the proper direction before we turn around. We got some cargo to think about. Delivering for Amazon today. And we're just going to try to keep that flight path in there. I got to kind of cut the corner. Slide back into the flight path. And they do have the magenta boxes in your glass cockpit to give you the idea of what your flight path is, even if you turn your visual assistance off. And there's the next opportunity to skip. Again, I do wait for the ATC communications to end before I skip. And if I'm going into a runway, like if it's going to have me skip to the landing, I'm going to make sure that I come down and make sure that my landing and taxi lights are on before I land. So I don't have to worry about, do I have my taxi lights on? Do I have my landing lights on? I'd make sure that those are actually in place before I conduct the skip. That way we're going to alleviate all of those ATC infractions along the way. Autopilot seems to have disconnected itself, so we're just going to go ahead and gain control over the aircraft and continue to use our quick reply. Working the first time, working the second time. Hopefully. The second one to acknowledge the ATC handoff still hasn't happened. So what I'm going to do is cheat the system and come in here, and I'm going to acknowledge the frequency change using my ATC communications just to force them in the right direction. Close that up. Continue along my merry way. Trying to make money quick without all the hassle. Again, I don't use any VR glasses or eye track or anything like that. 2D camera controlled with the controller. Not worried about a thing. Where's our speed at? About 90. I haven't perfected the art of landing yet. I'm getting a lot better at it. Sort of. Should be coming around the mountain. I do like to come in a little bit lower than these frames, just because I tend to float my landings a little bit. Of course, I'll change that depending on weather conditions, if I know what they are going in. Generally speaking, though, I just kind of quote-unquote wing it. Cheesy humor. But it's the good humor. Getting a little slow, getting a little low. Don't want to drop those flaps yet. I'm just going to kind of maintain this speed with throttle control and a little bit of nose up attitude. And hand flat. Old school. But even when I'm doing those skydiving missions, using that Y, G, X, and R indent really just don't seem to help me. And again, I think that's more of a bug in the system than it is. Have you experienced anything different with that? Have you done the skydiving missions more often than I have to where you would know? Or is that just, does it work? Because I'm getting up there as quickly as possible using those, and I still seem to get the same infringements. At least that's been my experience so far. If you got something different, let me know, because, again, that might be something independent to my version of the software, which shouldn't alter or be different from what yours is. I do enjoy the fact, though, that we have been going strong with the stream for quite a while now. Not a hiccup, not a problem. Everything seems to be going good. Frame rates aren't necessarily the greatest thing ever, but I'm not complaining too hard. Start to make that descent a little bit more and get back underneath these frames. Get an idea of where our airport is, and we're going to start making that turn right about now. Something else that I found out is that if you anticipate these early, you're going to wind up having a better approach. At least that's what I try to do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Still haven't put any flaps down. I'm going to announce that final since I'm finally there. We get quite a bit of turbulence as we come over the treetops and get a little bit closer to the ground. This is something else that really bothers me, is these text boxes that come up right over the top of your equipment during vital parts of the flight. Still haven't put any flaps down. And I do like to land from outside, especially during the day, so I can get a better idea of how quickly that shadow is coming down to the ground. Call me a cheater. I'm not mad. I'm down. Moving on. More money, more money, more money. You did it 3 times. First one failed in time, and the second and third you used the max climb and not follow proposed route. Got 100%. Wow, 100% for time. Bravo, man. That I have not been able to do, but I think that would actually be a pretty decent way to earn cash too, because that's got I don't know, an average income. Yeah, and the landing time, the amount of time it takes you to get back to the ground is extremely important. Do you get close to overspeeding on your way down, or how do you go about that? Are you like Red Bull style, nose down, all in? Because that's what I'd like to be able to do. I mean, I don't know how many times you've skydove, but I've jumped out of an airplane, and the airplane that I jumped out of got to the ground before I did. We actually were under parachute while the airplane was landing below us. It was insane. Would I do it again? Absolutely. And again, if I get that option to skip, I'm taking it. And then I might even consider going over and getting the Roto CPL. Just to have it in the bank. That way, I can start testing this area's search and rescue options. Red Bull style it is. 0 throttle and drop down. Yeah. I like the style. That's good stuff. And the airframe holds up pretty good, or you do have, are you able to turn crash physics off and stuff like that, or? How's the airframe hold up? Dunsky. $99, 125% for procedures. Wow, knocking it out of the park. That's got to be a grand slam right there. I didn't know you could do better than a hundo. I've only had one of these missions since restarting this career path that has actually gone below an S rating. 670. Boo. Boo. What even is that? But I am sitting at the nearly 10,000 mark. I do enjoy that they allow you to do these missions so far away. Some of these are 26,600. What the? And nothing else is unlocked as of yet. Alrighty. Alrighty. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought the crash physics weren't able to be turned off. And you can't even open the window. Love it. Yeah, the UI design is also leaving a lot to be desired. The Cabri. And here's one of the thing that's a little bit of a lesson learned as well. I know that I'm about to jump into a Cabri for the first time since I've reloaded the simulator today. Actually, a brand new, fresh version of the simulator. This will be the first time I've been back in the Cabri at all. So I'm going to go all the way back out to my main menu. I'm going to choose the free flight option and change my aircraft here to the Cabri. Once I have that selected, I'm going to go into the settings and make sure that the simulator is recognizing my controls as Cabri instead of any other aircraft that I've used so far in the career. Hopefully, again, this is just another bug that they've got to work through, but this is the process that I've taken to make sure that my key bindings are what they're supposed to be before I get into the aircraft. Prior, that would have been different. All of those settings would have stuck to what was the 172's preset. But in this instance, it seems to have retained the information, and I will again double check that after I'm in the career to make sure that those settings aren't being reverted at all. It's just kind of keeping a little bit ahead of the game. I think it's just important to keep ahead of the game in every instance. CPUs, a Ryzen Threadripper 2950X, 128 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM on a 2080 Ti. Only 11 gigabytes of RAM. I'm getting pretty decent results, and so far, without these crashes happening, I think I'm okay with it. I just think we should go for the certification at this point. Let's go for it. We've already checked out our settings in the main menu for free flight, but now we're going to dive in and see if those have stuck now that we're in the career version of the simulator. And you have to realize that these are coming off of two different CDNs. So I want to make I'm just going to double check for my own, just peace of mind. I want to know that all of that stuff is staying there. All right. That was the menu. We're back in. Drum roll, please. I just have to keep going back and forth. And even after I spend the $3,500 on this, I'm still going to have a pretty decent amount of money in the bank to keep on doing what I'm doing. I'm just not getting my own airline until that number is a lot higher than what it is now or what it was when I first opened up my career. I'm just going to play this much, much safer and continue to wait for Microsoft, Asobo, Hype, and the rest of the team to just kind of keep those patches coming. Load-in times honestly aren't taking that long. I haven't seen the helicopter jump really too much. The graphics are a little bit stuttery. Hopefully that's just my settings. I do enjoy what they're doing with these airports. I really do. I guess we're going to hop into Old Faithful here. And let's go ahead and start it up. I like to do these fast and dirty. Just gonna turn on all of this good stuff. Make sure it's all just in a flight-ready condition, and then crank her up. Works for me. Seems like as long as I touch the controls that needed to be used during the pre-flight, and then I do the Control E, it fires up anyway. Quick and dirty, guys. Quick and dirty. I'm here to make money. Quick reply, working right away. Flight controls look good. I'll sit a little bit lower in the cockpit here. I don't know why I like to get into this view so I can see where my horizon is. I try to put that horizon just about center monitor and keep those vital instruments visible, just for my own 2D world of flight simulation. Hold short. A little bit of a seizure over there. Back in the Cabri. We. Still see a bunch of chunky trees, a lot of stuff being generated out there in the background. Settings are low, spirits are high. Oh blah dee, oh blah da. Didn't take long to get back into a helicopter. Didn't take long at all. Even after a fresh install of the simulator, we're right back at it. Is it in the Cabri? Sure. But every suggestion that I've given you up to this point for a smoother experience with your simulator is working for me. It is, however, a little bit unfortunate that I think some higher-end equipment is kind of going to be necessary, I think, for PC users to get a best experience out of their sim. Putting the simulator on an NVMe drive, you know, those are the fastest read-write speeds you can get, at least as far as I know as a consumer. It really does optimize the experience with the game. I called it a game again. Not by mistake. Normally, prior to all of this resetting, I had to touch down in order to get the clearance here sometimes, and I'm just not going to do that yet. I'm waiting for this to come through naturally. Just in a hover. Clearance comes through. I can quick apply for the takeoff clearance, and it seems to be functioning as intended. This is a true testament that the procedure I went through of a clean install, a clean cache, and a better arrangement of file path configuration is very beneficial to your experience with this simulator. And I have not yet turned on a cache folder yet, because I know that in this career mode it's sending you into various places. I don't necessarily want to cache all of that information into my computer. I want to experience it, but I don't want it cached into my computer. So be careful about when you do that. Yeah, the taxi to the runway is painful. It is very painful. Low and slow isn't necessarily how any of us want to fly. Even taxiing the aircraft with fixed wing, no matter what you're in, it's the most painful part of it. I tend to either get too high off the ground or overspeed. I'm like, can we get there already? Can we get there already? I'll sometimes even just look for the skip at this portion of the flight. Because again, it's just a matter of profitability, and all I'm really doing is maybe losing a little bit of, reputation or... As long as I get an S rating at the end of it, I should be okay. I don't know how much of an impact that's going to have. I just know that flying too high and getting those ATC infractions have more of an impact than anything. What they should do is actually make a smaller portion of the runway available for helis. You know, just go out to a specific spot, maybe a quarter of the way down, or just as soon as you get onto the taxiway, you're able to take off from right there, because I don't need 1,000 feet. But they force you to go almost a mile or sometimes more in just the slowest taxi you can possibly not want to do. Yeah, I'm just gonna climb out. Maintain an altitude of 25 hundo. Alright, yeah, see, I actually turned my volume down on my speakers. I'm not wearing any headphones, so I'm literally just relying on only the call-outs and information that's being provided on screen. Which I think is also important in part of the experience, too, in case there are users out there that are hard of hearing and don't have any of that assistance available to them, you know. That reaches out to that community as well. Back in the old whirlybird. And familiar locations as well. This is somewhere we've been before. What I did not check was the sensitivity of my rudder pedals or cyclic to see if those settings also stayed the same. One thing is for sure, though. I think it's absolutely time to maybe consider a little bit of a different groove. Getting a little bit high on that altitude there. Trim, triminy. Yep, the trim's still working real good. And the fact that the H125 again doesn't have any trim built into it is just amazing to me. What in the world were you thinking? Yeah, let's put a HEMS pilot into an aircraft that doesn't have any trim. Genius. It's like sticking the head of a helicopter up the butt of a fuel truck. And if you understand that reference, thanks for sticking along for the videos. As you know, Microsoft is synonymous for putting vehicles in places on tarmacs where they don't necessarily belong, and that hasn't changed any. We had an H-160 yesterday get pretty intimate with a fuel truck.